No, go ahead, go ahead. I did finish. What were you saying?
I think it's very important for our people to get a full grasp of where we come from, and because these names have changed over time, we'll latch on to one name or another, like, oh, we're Russians, no, we're Slavs, no, we're Sarmatians, no, we're Scythians, no, but there's a root that it all goes back to, it's tied to that land, and that's our common ancestry, and that's our real that's the basis of it all.
It's so important, man, of all these peoples, especially us, forgetting who we are because of all these. We see all these evils that are going on right now, and just like talking about personally the people in Ukraine. Everyone walking around and not knowing who the hell they are, man, at all.
And then of course you don't know who your enemies are, right? And they're right
That's
in the midst of you, and because you've lost your history, you've also lost their history with you.
something so important that you said in the last video, and after the video, I just kept like, it was so embedded in my head. I was freaking walking around and talking about this like for the whole week that that has passed or whatever. That you know, this enemy, like they hate us, man. They want to destroy us. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And I was talking to like Polish people and our Slav. I'm not even gonna use any of these terms anymore. I'm just gonna say our Slavic brothers, man. I was talking to our Slavic brothers, and I was like kind of telling them, passing on the message that you talked about, man. And it's so, I don't know, man. It's like to the point of goosebumps, man. If you really feel this and you're not ignorant, and you think about these things and you think about all the terrible things that are going on right now, because I don't know if people are closing their eyes or they're turning their back or whatever, but again, going back to Ukraine, these Westerners are coming. Let's say they go to a club. There's a 17-year-old girl. They promise them a job out west. Next thing you know, this girl is somewhere in Amsterdam, you know,
Israel.
Israel, one of the Arab countries without her passport, butt naked in a red light district and a freaking in the
Hmm.
windows selling her body, man, and being threatened that her family back home will get annihilated. Like it's, man, it brings tears to my heart. Like I don't know,
Hmm.
man. I swear to God, sometimes when I really get into my head and I start thinking about these things, that I don't think these things should and can be ignored, but it brings such melancholy to my heart, man. My heart cries with blood, man. I don't know, man.
Yeah, no, I feel you, man, for sure. Even the children too. I mean, there's so many vulnerable children in Eastern Europe that are just like, I'll give you an example. In Poland, um, I don't know that I didn't verify this, but someone told me this. They said that 80% of the children who are adopted get adopted out to the West, especially Germany, and most of those are never traceable after that.
Wow.
And I can only imagine that that figure would get larger for Ukraine and Russia. You know.
I'll tell you a personal story. After many years going back to Ukraine, I landed in Lviv. I went from I landed in Warsaw, Warsaw first, and then Lviv, and taking a ride back to my city, which is about 100 kilometers away from Lviv, the provincial capital. And I stopped at this. Like a little cafe, in the middle of nowhere in the road or whatever. It's just like a, you can almost say like a truck stop. So I walk into this place and it's like 10 p.m. at night or whatever, and I'm sitting there. I just ate. I'm having tea. I'm kind of relaxing and taking in everything because I haven't been here in years. And all of a sudden, this girl walks in. She must have been, no lie, like 10, 11 years old. Maybe even younger, and she sits right across me on a table, and without saying hello or anything like that, I guess right away, they notice a foreigner, even though I wasn't a foreigner anymore, but very much probably westernized. And she sits across me and she goes, "I will suck you off for $1." and Tomek, I swear to God, you know, freaking tears started rolling down my eyes, man. You know, because what do you? I mean, obviously, you know, you get mad and you get angry and you want to freaking help this child so much, but it's like at that moment you're thinking like, how many more kids out here at this place, man? You know, this beautiful people with so much culture and history behind us, you know, completely lost, completely capitalized upon and enslaved, you know, by this higher society, you know, these Westerners, whatever you want. It's just, I don't know, man. I'm sorry. I had to remember that instance, man, because it was so real at that moment. It got so real at like what's going on, you know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It was the sad, I don't know, it was the saddest thing. I keep remembering it, and I remember, you know, giving her a bunch of money. I think I got, you know, for Ukraine, I gave her enough money to be able to buy food for like the next year. But it's like, okay, well, the year will pass, and then what? You know, and how many more kids out here like that, man? It's, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, especially with a war going on, and I mean, so much gets lost in the traffic going on, you know, the trucks and the confusion of all that. So many things can happen to people. And it really hasn't changed because the destinations in the past were the Ottoman Empire, and the main agents were the Kabbalistic Khazars' ancestors, or the Jewish people who remained there. And I'm talking about, you know, like not like ordinary Jewish people like bakers, and I'm talking about like the mafioso Jewish people who are the real Russian mafia. The Russian mafia doesn't exist. It's really the Jewish mafia, and they still run that business today, even more so, and they still ship it to the same place for the most part, which Turkey, you know, is across the water from Ukraine, so that becomes the major transit point, and then they spread them to the Middle East, and of course Israel is, you know, it's actually the highest profit margin for Ukrainian girls out of any slave, so they're the most demanded. So another, you can think like another, what's the word? Incentive for that war was actually the people as merchandise to be able to smuggle more people out.
Man, I swear to God, man, I don't know, man. I'm not like an emotional person per se, because you know,
Well, it pisses me off, man. Like, you know,
it honestly, I want to cry every time I hear about it, man. I don't know why. Every time I hear this, I feel like I feel the pain of that whole region, like collectively, man. I swear to you, it's.
I wish these people would just be, you know, I wish the people there would wake up and you know, they would hunt down some of these people who are perpetrating this and just string them up on public television. You know what I mean?
Get into that. If you were to lead an uprising in the Slavic countries, what would you do, man?
Well, I mean, I guess.
Come on, you're intelligent enough, bro. Don't.
Well, I'm saying, like, you know, like, why are these people getting away with this? You know, are you going to trust, are people there going to just trust the government to persecute these people? But they're running the government. You know, who's running the government? The Western powers, the Jewish cabal, you know.
But what would you do? Would you very firstly introduce and try to teach who we really are? Would that be one of the important keys into waking people back up?
And then keep, you know, being lawful people is very important. You know.
You know, one thing that I always have this conversation with my nephew, and you know, whenever things get into the topic of money, because you know, living in New York, I'm pretty sure you can relate. You know, being in Toronto, although it's smaller, you know, all these big cities, they kind of function the same way, where as you have this society that's sort of like either chicken without the heads, or you know, rats that are just running around trying to devour everything, and everyone is competing for material things, and you know, basically the motto is, you know, get it by any means, and you know, things like that. And it's I always tell these younger people, it's like, dude, our ancestors gave us, and God has given us the basic law. You know, like here, like you said, these 10 commandments, like trust me, we have been using this, and we have seen the repercussions of you not using it. It's like, dude, boom, here it is. Trust me, like, just take these scriptures, man. Like just take, you will live much better. You don't need anything else. You know what I mean? um there's this rapper called Killer Priest, and I know it sounds like a crazy name, but
No,
yeah,
I know him.
yeah, he so I don't know if you remember, but he deciphered like the word Bible. You remember he said basically Bible breaks down into basic instruction before leaving Earth.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I always keep going back to that, man. I'm like,
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of interesting because he was talking about his, the identity of his people, how it had been lost, the
yes,
Hebrews, in his music. And keep in mind, he was a mainstream rapper, so this was like revolutionary that he was saying that in the 90s.
yeah.
And I'm saying this now, like 20 years later, and people still don't really get it.
Mm-hmm.
This guy was like a lone voice in the wilderness in like 1997, you know?
Mm-hmm. He actually he put out like an album. I think it was last year or a year before, man. I love listening to this guy, man. He's definitely one of my inspirations, man.
Yeah, Heavy Mental, you know that album?
Yeah, definitely.
That was like his, that was I love that album because that one is just, it's so on point. It's full of knowledge. It's not, doesn't stray into these like, carnal things like liquor and whores and things like that. Yeah, it was really well done. After that, yeah, he had a lot of good little singles and stuff I saw, but I didn't really get too much into his other albums after that one.
Yeah, there was also a good one. I think it was called The Secret Life of Walter something, man. I don't remember. It was like a double disc, man. But that was, I don't know. Like me, I try. I want to do more of that, man. I want to implement all these things into my music, and every time I write, man, I try to do something for our people, and things like that. I wish I had more time to like make sure it gets out there and things like that, but I don't know, man. It's yeah, and I don't know. To me, it's always been like beautiful that suppressed people, like even Killer Priest, being like from one of the hardest hoods in New York and things like that, we're able to find this knowledge and try to spread it, and I don't know. It's something very romantically poetic about that.